Hey everybody, had a chance to sit today with Paul Motskis, the founder of REMAX Professionals, one of the three founders of REMAX Professionals, and we're going to ask him just a couple questions about our history and our tradition. So, Paulie, welcome. Thank you for doing
this. Thanks, Mike. You bet.
First thing I wanted to ask you is really just how did it all come together? How did it get started, the three of you together?
Well, first of all, Mike, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to do this because I'm going to be in Palm Springs tomorrow. Otherwise, I would be with all of the REMAX professionals. And I'd like to thank the original founders of our company, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But how did it come about? 30 years ago, Tom Shack, Al Smith, and myself were all with Van Schaack and Company. And we were not too happy at that time with Van Schaack and Company because things were changing and they were hiring people that we didn't want to associate with. And the commission splits, as you and I have talked about, weren't the very best. Like 50% to Van Schaack, 50% to us, not too good. So we thought, well, let's open our own company. And we talked over cocktails, over beers, over napkin cocktail talk, and we decided it's time to leave. Now, where are we going to go? Well, Van Schaack name was taken. That was the best name in real estate at the time. Moore and Company was taken, Perry and Butler. We thought about Kentwood. We actually talked to the Kentwood guys, but we weren't quite sophisticated enough to go Kentwood on the southwest side of town, and they didn't want us. So actually it was Al Smith that came up with REMAX. I hate to give my partner Al credit, but he is the Harvard graduate. You got to remember, Tom Shack, little town in Nebraska, about 100 people, counting the Shack family. I'm from Los Animas, a little bigger town in southeast Colorado. I went to CSU, Tom Shack went to Greeley, and Al Smith went to Harvard. Big difference in personalities. But Al came up with, he said, I think we need a brand name. And at that time, Century 21, that wasn't our deal. ERA, there were others, there were many others, but REMAX was up and coming and we knew some of the people at REMAX. So we decided that we would investigate REMAX. So we went over to see Dave, Gail, there was Daryl Jesperson, there was Vinnie Tracy, who's going to be here with you today. And I'm sorry, I'm going to miss you, Vinny. I love you. Let's see, there was Don Hackenberger. He was a franchise sales guy. And Don was a guy that we talked to. We talked to all of them because they were excited to see Van Schaack guys walk in. It was a big deal.
I'm sure.
Dave needed some credibility to the REMAX name. It was, quite honestly, Dave, it was struggling. And thanks to us, when he saw us, he said, I'd like to have you guys on board. Well, there was no place to buy a franchise because in those days, Mike, they sold territories. Unlike what you guys have now, well, I shouldn't say that. You do have a territory.
Yeah.
But thanks to Tom, Al, and Paul.
Mm-hmm.
But they sold big territories, so there was nothing available on the southwest side of the city. So Dave and his group went to Craig McCulley, Carl Davis, and Jim Hicks owned all of the southwest area. And Dave convinced them in his way of convincing people, threatening, that you will sell a portion of your territory to Paul, Tom, and Al. So that's how we ended up at the Jefferson office. We picked that location because they had an executive suite and we could open immediately because once Van Schaack found out we were going to open our own, we had to leave immediately. We were asked to see the door. We hadn't planned on that, but it happened overnight. And so we were kicked out of Van Schaack and Company and went over to Jefferson and opened the Linpro at Linpro Center.
So on that first day, what did it look like? How many of you were there?
There were 5 of us. Actually, we needed support help, and so we hired from Chuck Oxner, who wasn't at REMAX at the time. We hired Cynthia Haver. Cynthia Haver was our secretary at Van Schaack, and we knew we needed a top person, and Cynthia was it. And we met with her at a bar up in Lakewood, and Tom with his charm convinced, and of course me, we convinced Cynthia to join us, not knowing what the future was going to be. She was with Chuck Oxner, a pretty successful broker. And so we convinced Cynthia. She came. We gave her her own office. We were in executive suites. There was Tom, Al, Stan Thompson, Buck Height, and myself in one office. Judy Myers actually joined the same day, but wasn't able to leave. So we saved a spot for her. And then all of a sudden, we had a lot of people wanted to join us from Van Schok and Moore and Company and Perry and Butler. And so we kept opening little private offices in the executive suites, which was really pretty cool. Mike, it was the most exciting time that I've ever been involved in real estate, because we were listing and selling houses like crazy. And every time we put a sign up, we thought, here we go, we're growing fast. And we did. And so that was the beginning. So
At the end of year one, how many people were with the company?
23.
23 people at the end of year one.
We had a full office.
That's great.
Yeah, everybody had a private office in those days.
Yeah.
So
And then how long after that did you open the union office?
was within a year, soon after that. Well, and Al Smith's going to be in the audience today, so I can talk about him since I'm not there.
Yeah.
Tom and I decided we can't work with Al. I mean, here's a Harvard guy, a CSU guy, and a Greeley guy, and it's not clicking. So Al was a Green Mountain Union guy, so we thought this would be great. Al opened the union office, and it was an instant success as well.
1984, I think, was the year on that.
1984, I believe, and you know, these dates may be a little off, but fairly soon after we opened, because we had filled up one office, and Al moves to Union, and lo and behold, we filled up another office. And then, your next question?
When did you open up the Bulls office?
The Bulls office. Mikey, that was a big deal to open the Bulls office. And the reason it was a big deal, well, first of all, Van Schok, by that time, we had closed Van Schok.
Yeah.
We ran them out of town. We were doing so well, and other people had joined RE/MAX because they saw, gee, if those three guys can make it work. RE/MAX Masters, Chuck Oxner joined, there were others, so we were kind of pioneers in bringing we think, the better brokers on board. But Van Schok and Jim Hatfield is, I think, here today, will tell you that Van Schok got kicked out of the Bulls office, and that left a really nice office space. So we decided, well, let's expand again, because we've got the agents that want to work for us,
sure.
And you know how that works. If people want to come, let's make a place. But the big decision, Mike, was whether it would be Tom or I that went down there. And we had some of our old agents, I won't mention their names, they know who they are, that said, you guys shouldn't split up. This will never work. Well, we were concerned because Tom and I were as close as brothers, and so Tom wanted to go to Bulls. You guys that stayed at Jefferson didn't know that, but he really wanted to go to Bulls. And I said, Tom, I'm closer to Bulls than you are. And the only time I ever convinced Tom of anything was to let me open the Bulls office. And it was kind of awkward because I needed agents, and the best agents were in Jefferson. So I tried to recruit our own agents, which is kind of a no-no.
Yeah.
And I did all kinds of goofy things to get people to come down there. And the guys that are still around will remember that they kind of called it Polly's Dollies. Because, of course, who followed me? The women.
Chicks dig you, Paul.
Chicks dig me, and they wanted to come. Guys weren't digging me. Trip Young, who hopefully, Trip's been in the hospital, hopefully Trip's here today. But I convinced Trip to come down, and Trip's a guy, so that's a good thing.
That was a good thing. And
then later, I think you came.
I did.
You're definitely a guy.
I am.
And so I started to get guys, and that really helped.
Yeah.
But and the office became, I think, the most successful office that we had. Al won't agree, and if Tom were here, I'm sorry he's not, but he wouldn't agree either, and neither would Wally and Tim Keaty and Larry Ray and whoever else stayed at Jefferson.
Right.
So, excuse me, there's a phone, get that phone. So, gosh, this real estate business. That's probably my wife. So anyway, we opened Bowles and it became an instant hit, as you know. And
Yeah.
it became our biggest, most profitable, most successful. Forget the profit. We
Yeah.
never made any money, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So you're used to that.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
Totally.
So then soon after that, we had an opportunity to buy your next question.
Highlands Ranch.
Highlands Ranch. I
Yeah.
knew you were going to ask that. That was really cool. Art Momper had the Highlands Ranch office, or a office in Highlands Ranch, and Art was ready to change, to become just a broker. So we bought Highlands Ranch, and the Highlands Ranch office at that time was in a secret location, like an office we'll
Yeah.
talk about next.
Yeah, for sure.
Area 51. Nobody knew where the Highlands Ranch office was. In fact, we couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But we bought it, and we decided that Jim Hatfield, who loved to manage people, I mean, he was a great manager.
Yes.
And we convinced him of what a great opportunity it would be for him to be a manager again. And he did, and he was very successful. And sooner than later, we got rid of the lease there. We were able to get out of that lease, which, by the way, you'll never get out of the lease at Ken Carroll. That's a long-term lease.
Mhm.
But anyway, we were able to get out of that lease and move to the present location. And of course, we were across the hall from your current location now,
Right.
competing with Prestige.
Yeah.
And we finally drove them out of business. Maybe I shouldn't say that, because you have a lot of good Prestige people here. But anyway, that office became a big success as well. So I think that brings us full circle, except
One more office.
one more office, and you are very attached to that office.
Yes,
We convinced you, because you were young, naive, and stupid,
I was.
to open up in Area 51, again, no signage, nobody knew you were there, and we sent you to Ken Carroll. And obviously you did a great job. And you hired some great people, and the office became such a success, we had to build a building
Yeah.
to put it in. And that's where we're at today, and that's where I've been sent since we sold the company. And I love it, and it's the best office. I don't care what anybody else says.
The best.
It is the best office with the best people, best staff. Linda Detweiler's over here now. Pat, oh, everybody loves Pat. The whole staff is great, and the agents are great. So they are in every office, but
So speaking of the people, over the years, we've had tons and tons and tons of great people. And just to kind of sum up and maybe finish our little discussion, maybe give me your top 3 stories that we can say in mixed company tomorrow of all the people that have worked here and all the great stories. Think of 1 or 2.
I wish you would have asked me that earlier so I could have thought about it. Top 3 stories? Well, early on in our recruiting, there was a lady by the name of Emily Caldwell, when we were still in the executive suites. No, actually, we'd moved into our permanent space. Everybody wanted to join our company, and Emily showed up at a sales meeting in a casket. And we were in our meeting, and here comes Emily, or here comes a casket delivered to our sales meeting. And we wondered, well, who the hell would order a casket? And up pops Emily Caldwell, and she says, I was dying to become a RE/MAX professional. That's a story I'll never forget.
That's a pretty good one.
And then there's some stories of our retreats, which make yours look like Sunday
Smile?
school classes. But I can't talk about those. Other stories you might know as well as I. I mean, the softball team we had was fun. Oh gosh, I don't know. There's so many things. I don't know, Mike. I can't.
Hard to
name
top
it.
the Emily Caldwell
Well, that's a
story.
pretty good
That's a
story
pretty good
for
one.
recruiting. That was a good story. Let's see. Well, I got appointed, I'll tell you this, I got appointed by default, much like you, to be the broker of record. And along with that is a lot of responsibility, because when our agents foul up, we ended up going to court. Didn't happen a lot, but I became the broker of record, and I told you, don't take that job.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Mhm.
Brad Whitehouse should be that.
Thank you for saying
Yes,
that today.
Brad, you should be the broker of record, because you have nothing else to do. And Alan's real busy. So anyway, and then I became by default the manager, the office manager, I guess, So I got the big office in the corner, and we had a lot of fun stories that happened in our offices. Again, we could talk about that at another time.
Yeah, we
But,
can.
Tom Shack, here's the story. Tom Shack and I, at one of our first broker-owner meetings with Dave Liniger, we thought we were more important than Dave. Of course, it turns out we weren't.
Mhm.
But we played gin in the back of the room while Dave spoke at a broker-owner conference. And I thought later, we're pretty tacky guys. But it didn't
That's a
seem
pretty
to,
good story.
Didn't seem to bother Dave. So anyway, there's another story, but there's many more.
Yeah, over 30 years, there's been a lot.
A lot.
Well, I'm glad that we got to talk. I'm glad that you kind of got to tell the story. One of the things we're going to talk about today is really all the tradition that's made RE/MAX Professionals what it is today.
Mhm.
So I think it's good for everybody to kind of hear from the horse's mouth. We'll leave it at that.
No.
Thanks again.
I'd like to just last of all say that you guys have continued on, in fact, done a better job than Al and I, and unfortunately we lost Tom, but your training, your technology, your willingness to do new things, you've really advanced the company, Mike, and I'm really proud of it. And we couldn't have sold to anybody that would have carried on the tradition any better. Chuck Ochsner wanted to buy the company. Dave Liniger wanted to buy us, but thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mikey.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
See
Thanks,
ya.
Polly.